I'm Idiotech, and this is my review of Black Ops 3 for PC. So, I made a video a couple of days ago letting everyone know the game had some serious performance issues, and I said when my review came out I would let you know if those issues had been fixed. They have not. Now, to Treyarch's credit, they did fix one issue affecting other users, not me personally, but other users. i5 CPUs were experiencing significant performance loss, and as a result, Treyarch patched that. However, all of the issues I raised in my video still exist, and in fact, I've found significantly more since continuing to play the game. I have played this game now for 3 days, or at least tried to play it for 3 days, and I have struggled immensely due to a number of technical issues. I'm going to cover each of those in the appropriate sections. Let's get into it. First up is single player. Now, I had a pretty negative experience with the single player overall. Not only did it have a number of technical issues, which I've already covered in my previous video, but it kind of just sucked overall. The story's hard to follow, it's full of plot holes, unexplained events, unlikable characters that are poorly executed with some pretty cheesy voice acting. The pacing isn't great, level design seems to drag on, and I got tired of them very quickly. There isn't much variety in terms of locations. You spend most of the game stuck in Singapore at night, then you move on to Egypt, and then as you progress into the later half of the game, you get some hallucination sequences which are actually kind of interesting. There are some very cool and surreal moments at the later half of the game, but they don't make any sense, and you have to wait a long time to get there. The gameplay gets old fast, you move from room to room and kill a bunch of dudes, rinse and repeat. It's not very exciting. They've also added a system that allows you to see people through walls and see what kind of soldiers you're up against. This oversimplifies an already simplified game. Now, there is a leveling system which is carried over from the multiplayer. You can unlock weapons and attachments as well as new powers. The power system is cool, and it does force you to choose a path, so you either go down the control path where you're allowed to hack robots and manipulate your environment, the movement path where you can jump and get all those kind of cool abilities and charge people and stuff like that, and then you get a damage tree where you can fire bees at people that kill them or force people to vomit themselves to death. And this is a nice addition. But the problem is I didn't feel much of a need to use it as my gun was incredibly effective when playing. So I only very rarely used the feature, and I felt that maybe they could have designed the levels to specifically require each power so that they, were forced into the game in some way. Because it's a nice idea, it's just I didn't feel the need to use it. Now, the reason I play Call of Duty stories is because they're kind of a popcorn action movie experience. They have a lot of wow moments, and they're overall fun, even if they don't last particularly long. This game just doesn't have any of those moments. I felt bored for most of my time playing the game, and I was reminded of all the cool sequences from the previous titles. I think it was Advanced Warfare where you start in space as an astronaut. That's fucking fun. Or in Modern Warfare 2 when you're going down a hill on a snow ski shooting dudes with an SMG. That's fucking fun. There's nothing like that here. It was a very boring and dry experience overall, and I'm really not sure why it's getting such positive reviews. There is one feature which I think is a nice addition, and that is co-op. It's nice to see this added. You can play with a friend or someone online, and I think it could make some of the levels a lot more enjoyable. Overall though, I kind of think this is one of the worst single players that Call of Duty has ever released. Next up is Nightmares. So once you complete the single player campaign, you unlock Nightmares. It's essentially a rehash of the single player campaign. It's the same missions, but with a voiceover that delivers a different story, and it has zombies in it. I found it to be quite tense at points, honestly, and I thought overall it was better than the single player campaign in terms of its pacing and the overall tension I felt while playing. The zombies add a horde mode fear factor that human soldiers simply don't. The mode actually made me more interested in the game overall, and I thought it was better than the main story. The mode borrows several mechanics from zombie mode, magic boxes with random guns, zombies drop ammo and weapons. Overall, I think it was a nice addition, and I kind of wish the main story had gone down this route initially. It offers some replay value and some longevity to the game. It also has co-op, and it also has the same performance issues as the campaign. Zombie mode is where things get even more dire than they already are. It doesn't work, in multiplayer at least. I got one game in 2 hours. The lobbies fill with 18 people when they're designed for 4. Games fail to start. If you do get into a game, I've been disconnected immediately upon entering. Games fail to launch. I've even had crashing. The one game I did get into, I had a ping of 600, and it was unplayable for me. So I played the solo mode instead, and honestly, it doesn't feel very well balanced to a single player experience. It really is a game that requires co-op, and that's kind of the point. So I had trouble reviewing this thing. It has the same things as every other zombie game. It's set in a film noir setting. It has some famous actors in it. There are a few changes. You get these essentially buffs that you choose prior to going into a game, and then you find a gumball machine. You pay some money. It gives you one of those buffs randomly. You can unlock more of them as you progress through the progression system. You can also upgrade your weapons and get attachments, so that's nice. Overall, though, it's not any different than the previous installments. It has a slightly different theme. It does have one feature that I should mention, and that is that you're allowed to turn into a monster for a few seconds, and it's not great combat-wise, but what it does do is allow you to unlock secret areas and get your team additional buffs. Honestly though, I couldn't really judge this mode because it doesn't work. And finally, we get into the meat of every Call of Duty game, which is the multiplayer. And if it worked for me, I'd probably say it was a reason to pick up this game, but it doesn't, because I live in Australia, and sadly, because I live in Australia, and this game doesn't have dedicated servers, and Treyarch created a terrible matchmaking system, every game I enter, I have a 400 plus ping, I experience rubber banding, teleporting players, being killed by players I can't see, being shot around corners, etc., etc. Now, dedicated servers would have fixed this issue for me, but fuck me because I live in Australia. Now, if you live in the US or Europe, this won't be a problem for you, so I will move on. Based on a few good games I did have, and several games against bots so I could get some feel for how the multiplayer was supposed to work, I think it's okay. It's a slight improvement on the previous titles. The differences are, you get to choose a class. It's called specialists, I think, in the game. Essentially how it works is you pick a specialist and you get one of two abilities and you unlock those, and it gives you essentially a special power-up button that you can use. It slowly ticks over time, you earn it over time, and then you can use it. So in the case of the characters I was playing, you get a bow that shoots explosive bolts, or you get a grenade launcher, etc., etc. I think it's a nice addition to the game. I think there's some potential balance issues for some of the classes there, but it's a nice thing to have. Now, as for the progression system, it's the same as the previous Black Ops games. It's a pick 10 system, nothing new there. One thing I should talk about though is the black market. Essentially, you earn this currency as you play the game that allows you to go into the black market and unlock chests. Those chests could have been microtransactions, and I'm very happy to see that they are not. Essentially, you get a bunch of skins. It's very similar to CSGO or every other game that's had chests. So those are the core differences. There is also a movement system change. Now, it's sort of the same as Advanced Warfare, but toned down a little bit. I think it's okay. Honestly, I'm not a huge fan of the vertical gameplay that's been introduced in the last two games, but it's there. Overall, if I could play this, I think the multiplayer would actually be a justification for picking up this game, even in a broken state. It's fun, it's a fast-paced arena shooter, and it has a lot to offer if you're not already sick and tired of the Call of Duty franchise. However, it doesn't work for me, so what I have right now is a $100 Australian dollar single-player game and nothing else. So I think most of you will be pretty aware of what my conclusion is going to be, and that is this is one of the most broken games to release this year and does not warrant a purchase from anyone. However, if you are adamant about picking up this game and you are only interested in the multiplayer and you live in either a highly populated area of Europe or the US, then you're probably not going to have any problems there, and the multiplayer is above average. Everything else about the game sucks or doesn't work, so I really would recommend you save your money for something better. As always, if you like my video, please let me know in the comments below, like, favorite, share, and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.